Hello and welcome back to the channel. If you're new to the channel, smash the subscribe button because I share how to start property investment, financial freedom, as well as personal development. So in this video, I'm going to share with you why I do not buy properties in London for rental purposes. You see, when you're starting your property investment journey, or when you're investing in properties, you want to invest in areas where your money work a lot harder. It doesn't just work a lot harder, but it gets you better and significant return on your investment in a way that you can build your portfolio rapidly without worrying about any issues. So in this video, that's really what I'm going to share with you. If you want to learn, stick with me until the end. You can see how you can benefit from not investing in London, especially if you're looking to rent your properties. So before we get to the nitty-gritty and all the analysis, I would like us to look at the average market rent in those areas. We're going to look at London and somewhere in the north. Perhaps we can look at Newcastle and see what are the differences when it comes to average house prices as well as rental figures. So let's get to it. So suppose then we're looking at London, okay? This is in London, okay? So average house price in London is going for 698,540. This is according to Rightmove. I'm not picking up the figures. These are figures from Rightmove themselves. So that's how much you require to be able to buy a property in London. Okay, let's look now how much money we would be able to rent the property out after we've bought it. Looking at the average rental income, according to the BBC, this article has just been published recently, not even long ago. Average property is rented in London for £2,567 per calendar month. So in essence, £700,000 for a property, average house price in London, and then you can rent that property for up to £2,567. Let's now move forward a little bit in the north. Suppose we want to look at this so we can have a contrast on what the difference is. We can look at a city like Newcastle because Newcastle is doing really well at the moment. So looking at Newcastle, average house price in Newcastle is £211,000. So if you're able to put a deposit of 75% of that £211,000, you're able to buy a property in Newcastle. Let's now look at that £211,000 property. How much rent will that property generate us? So we're going to go to this website. This website is called home.co.uk. They give us the average rental prices again in Newcastle. Looking at the figures here, that property that you bought for £211,000 will generate you about £1,431 per month in rental income. Okay, so now we know how much we need to invest in London to get a property and how much we can rent that property at. And we've also looked at Newcastle. We've worked at what their average house price is in Newcastle and how much we may be able to rent that property, the same exact properties. What I'd like us now to look at is what are the benefits with investing in London versus investing in Newcastle, looking at the figures and how our money could work a lot harder for us, or whether it's better to invest in London. So let's get to it. Let's start with London. So we know the average house price in London is £700,000 because it's £698,000. I just round that up, okay? So that's the price of a property in London. If we're looking to buy that property, we need to put down a deposit of 25%. So a deposit of 25% of 700,000 is about £175,000. So in order for us to be able to buy that property at £700,000, we need to be able to put down £175,000 as a deposit in order for the bank to be able to lend us the remaining 75%. And we now know we can rent that property for, you guessed that right, £2,567. So basically this would be our rental income. That's what we would make every single month for buying that property at £700,000 based on today's rental market. Suppose then, let's look at capital appreciation. Okay, in average, property prices goes up about 10 to 15% in the UK. Let's say 10%, okay? Suppose then that property went up by 10%. The £70,000 property went up by 10%. That would give us a total of how much? 70,000 capital appreciation. Okay, we would have made 70,000 for owning the property and would be making our rental income at the same time. Let's now look at the north. Suppose now we move into Newcastle. Okay, we are in Newcastle. We now know average house price in Newcastle is £211,000. Okay, £211,000 is what the prices are there. And a deposit would be required. A deposit of 25% is what we would need in order to be able to buy the property at £211,000. So 75% of that is £52,752. So we need to be able to raise that money in order to be able to buy that property. And we know the rental income for such property is £1,431 based on the research we've just done. So in essence, if you've got that property generates you, the £211,000 property will generate you £1,431. That's how much you'll be making with that initial investment. Suppose now, instead of using the £175,000 to buy one house, that £175,000 would buy us 3.3 of these houses. But obviously we cannot buy 3.3 house. Let's just say it can buy us 3 houses. So what we would do now, instead of putting that 75% deposit to buy a £700,000 house, we will split that amount into 3 in order to buy 3 of these houses. So if we've got 3 of these houses, we put the 52,752 in it, and each house generates us £1,431. If we times that by 3 houses, how much rent would we have generated? We would have generated £4,747 rent per calendar month. Okay, that's just by using the same amount to invest in the north in order to get £4,747. So if you minus those two figures here, right, if you minus the £4,747 from the £2,576, you would know then you've added a rental income of £1,431. So what that means, basically, the same investment here to buy that one house, okay, would have generated you an extra £1,431 by only investing the same amount to buy you 3 houses in the north of England, which is in Newcastle. And Newcastle is one of the up-and-coming cities. It's a very, very brilliant city, vibrant cities, and since they've even started the Premiership, properties are doing really, really well in that location. That's one of the benefits, and that benefit is only for cash flow. Let's look at it now. Suppose then we want to learn about the capital appreciation. What sort of capital appreciation we'll be able to gain from that same area of these 3 properties? Okay, suppose then we've got these 3 properties. Okay, so now we've got 3 properties, 1, 2, and 3 properties, right? We now know each property is 211,000. Okay, 211,000. Okay, 211,000. Now we've got this property, right? Suppose then property prices went up. Let's say for this one, let's just say it goes up by 10%. Because you're buying in Newcastle and you're not buying like in one specific area in Newcastle, you'll be buying in different areas in Newcastle, property prices may not go up the same, right? So let's say property price went up here by 13%. And then obviously then in the other area, maybe it's in a better posher area, property prices went up by 15%. So now you know here, if the property price goes up by 10%, you're talking about 21,000 100, okay? And again, property prices goes up by 13%. Here, you're talking about £27,431, okay? On the third property, meaning that it's in a good location, that side of Newcastle is doing really, really well, and property prices went up by 15%. That would have generated capital appreciation of £31,651, okay? So if we add all these figures up together, we would have generated £80,183 in capital appreciation. So instead of the 70,000 for buying one house in London, right, we would have generated an extra £10,183, and this is purely by moving away from London to Newcastle. So you can see now we've increased our capital appreciation by 10,183, right? And also our rent, we increased our rent £1,431. So now you can see the benefit of investing outside of London, because you're making your money work a lot harder for you. Especially if you're just starting out and you're really not sure and you want your money to work a lot harder for you, maybe you want to consider this. Imagine for a second, you did not go to Newcastle, for example. Suppose you went to somewhere in North Wales, somewhere in Blackpool, somewhere in Blackburn, right? You'll buy these properties for £100,000. And the £100,000 you buy those properties would have generated God knows how much. You would have bought about 6-7 properties, and each of those properties generate you about £1,000. You're talking about £5,000 a month just in rental income. So this is the benefit you get from kind of moving a little bit outside of London in order to make your money work a lot harder for you. Here's the thing. I'm not saying investing in London is a bad idea, but if you're starting out, you want to look for places where the properties are cheaper, whilst the value of the properties are also appreciating. And in terms of London also, if you want to invest in London, it's good to invest in London, especially if you're looking to flip. Flipping business is very good in London because, as you can see, the properties are absolutely crazy. You can buy a property for about £400,000-500,000. You can go and convert it into flats and all that sort of thing. You can divide it into two. Once you've divided into two, you can flip it and make serious return on your investments. So for me, this is how I invest. I look for properties near bigger cities that cost less, that can give me better return on my investment. I hope this video has showed you how you can make your money work a little bit harder. And if you like this video or any of my videos, hit the like button below, subscribe to my channel for more amazing videos. I look forward to sharing the next video. Thank you.